Hello, this is me and Thunder Thighs, Jill Valentine, in the present, but the video you're about to see today is from last week. Why am I uploading it now? Because quite simply, I was making other videos, but trust me folks, it's all relevant, even though it's backdated, it is strangely up to date. So if I were you, and if you were Jill Valentine in those unbelievably sexy shorts, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe and share, please.
Hello, Sid Snot here. Don't forget, playing your tranny loud annoys your neighbours. Another good one is emptying your rubbish over the fence.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before I get on with the rest of the video today, it's time to go over to the Steam concurrent players chart and see what's going on in the world of video games. Look at that, number 1, Black Myth Wukong for the 4th day running. Current player base, 2,122,336. All-time peak just surpasses that by another 300,000 people, which is pretty insane. By comparison, and you know I'm going to do this anyway, Concord, or at this stage, Conboard. Look at that, concurrent, well, the current player base, 415, all-time peak, 697, including the 24-hour peak as well. Rest in peace, Dustborn. Current players, 52, all-time peak, 83. If Red Thread Games had stuck to their legacy of things like Dreamfall, The Journey Ends, whatever it was called, they could have revived that series and they probably could have had a potential hit on their hands. But a Norwegian video game developer who wants to tell a story filled with complete ideological nonsense about the American road trip and American pop culture, where Marilyn Monroe is the first lady of America while JFK is 6 feet under, only makes me think, why on earth did Quantic Dreams, the publisher, even approve this nonsense? It's absolutely ridiculous.
He's fearless, scaleless, a little too careless.
But you might be thinking at this stage, folks, why on earth am I bringing up those games again today? Well, there's a perfect reason for that, because we know Concord is dreadful. We know that Concord is this poor man's version of Overwatch, which will come to play much, much later on. And Overwatch, yeah, came out in 2016, proved to be a massive hit worldwide. And obviously there were some trailblazers that tried to follow in its wake and failed absolutely dismally. Again, when I talk about Concord, when you think about characters like Imari, your big black body positivity woman of diversity, do you really warm to her? Do you identify with her, player? Because if you don't, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a narcissist, you're on the right side of leaning and you don't deserve to play our video game. But what do video game developers do when you attack their game? They call you all as names. They insult the player base they're trying to attract. And what makes me laugh even more, was it John Wisniewski who said, well, listen guys, this game is going to go on for many more years to come. If it's a live service game, right, which obviously Concord is, it needs to rely on servers. And if people aren't using the servers to play the game, what's going to happen, right? The money dries up, jobs are lost, the gamers have moved on to something else, and then your game will die a death, never to be seen or heard of again. And we talk about game preservation, folks. Do you think anybody's going to remember Concord in, say, I don't know, T-minus 3 hours from now? No, nobody is. It's going to be a fart in the absolute wind. Now, Cliff Basinski, Cliffy B, the man behind the original Gears of War trilogy, and I guess Judgment as well, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. I found a very interesting interview about him, which is about 4 years old now, and I wanted to share that with you today because it highlighted a few things to me. what makes everything so wrong with gaming. Now, after Cliffy B left Epic Games, I think it's a very silly move he actually made, to be honest. He should have stayed with them, but he was with them for like over 20 years. Well, he decided to make a game to rival Overwatch and to be a breakout hit called Lawbreakers. Do you remember that? A first-person shooter, which again looked too much like Overwatch. And looking at some of the character designs, they look okay. They don't really scream out anything to me. This actually takes me to an article from Forbes, so you know already you're in good hands, from Eric Kane. Eric Kane is absolutely the boss man. He's great. I like him because he seems to think on the same arena as I do. So Cliffy Blazinski says that he blames the failure of Lawbreakers on politics and gender neutral bathrooms. This absolutely blew my mind because I thought, if you're playing a first person shooter, what's gender neutral bathrooms have to do with it? Again, I'm kind of almost echoing Tina Turner's "What's Love Got to Do with It, Baby?" And rest in peace, Tina, you are an absolute goat. But honestly, when you think about the grand scheme of things, even the Dead Space remake had gender neutral toilets in the game, which stopped me from purchasing it actually, because I was quite keen on getting it until I heard that. But then also, they made some of the key female characters look like retarded donkeys, so I blew that one out of the water. Just stick with the original, folks. That's all you got to do. So Cliffy B, formerly Gears of War Epic fame, has posted his regrets about failed Boss Key, that's his company, shooter Lawbreakers on Instagram. The post makes no mention of the poor marketing the game received, or the fact it was a fairly generic shooter whose heroes made painfully awkward catchphrases.
Aegis unit requesting backup. Assistance is needed.
Instead, Blazinski talked about the politics, and I thought this was really funny as well, man. It was his insertion of woke politics into the game that turned people off. He argues, writing, "One big epiphany I had was that I pushed my own personal political beliefs in a world that was increasingly divided." Cliffy B continues, "Instead of the story being this game looks neat, it became this is the game with the woke bro trying to push his hacky politics on us with gender neutral bathrooms. Instead of these characters seem fun, it was this is the studio with a CEO who refuses to make his characters sexier. Instead of who am I going to choose, it became white dude shoehorns diversity in his game and then smells his own smug farts in interviews. Instead of just letting the product, well, you know, speak for itself. I'm not sure about you, but I don't remember hacky politics in Lawbreakers, let alone gender neutral bathrooms. Were there bathrooms in the game? I guessed a few times I played, I was too busy shooting and getting shot at to notice. Did the studio really try to not make its female characters too sexy? Well, I guess that one's true enough. They're all in armor and none are running around in thongs and bikini tops. And if you ask me, I would prefer to see that version of that game any time of the day. In fact, probably leave it up to a Japanese or South Korean video game developer to do that. You got my money, guys. But that's a point, right? Yes, so while the female characters are covered up, you couldn't even make them sexy. Isn't that a travesty, folks? When you compare to what Cliff Blazinski said here, and then we get the drudge and the turmoil that is Concord, and Sony expect people to lap up this game for $40 a pop. $40 for what? And apparently there's lots of DLC coming, and everybody isn't smelling their own farts. They're all playing Black Myth Wukong, aren't they? Because that's the much better game. But oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, Cliffy B, obviously a based man, glad this interview is still around for us to enjoy, and it's a bit of a sad travesty. I mean, 2016, folks, was that catalyst for everything to go, well, if you don't go woke, you might as well go broke mentality, and it certainly is a prevailing theme in today's games, folks. And by the way, I have to take a look at this very quickly. So Dexerto, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Now, he came up with a statement on Twitter X today, which is really kind of blew up quite a bit. He believes that if Black Myth Wukong doesn't win Game of the Year, the awards are rigged. Of course, well, we've known that for a long time, actually. As Endymion said here, it won't even be mentioned. Same way Hogwarts Legacy was ignored. 2 can't have based games winning. No, it's more to do with the fact that Rebecca Valentine and Ki-Hoon Jun, her accomplice, who's a he, she, they, them, actually misrepresented game science, said all these horrible things about them based on allegations but that weren't provable. That's the reason why Black Myth Wukong won't actually get mentioned at the Game Awards this year. But let's not forget one thing, folks. I do believe Tencent might be one of the sponsors of this year's event. So if they are, then Jeff Keighley will have no choice but to actually mention Black Myth Wukong on that award ceremony. That's the bet I'm willing to take now. That's the video game hill I am waiting to die on, but don't count your lucky stars on that one happening anytime, folks. So yeah, while I kind of agree with their sentiments, again, you know what, I mean, insanely enough, Black Myth Wukong, BMW, has sold over 10 million copies on Steam and PlayStation 5 combined in less than 4 days, which absolutely blows my mind. And long may game science actually start churning out the base games, because I need to talk to you about that as well, folks. I mean, again, something I probably forgot to mention in my video a couple of days ago, depending on when this one comes out. China has a certain degree of checkboxes it likes. Beautiful women, strong men, explosions, bombs, bullets, guns, heroics, adventure, mayhem. They like all that stuff, not about, shall we make this character black? Shall we get a big, ugly woman to come in and diversify things? Again, a common complaint I'm hearing about BMW. Where are the chicks in this game? Again, you don't have to bring in loads of chicks to make everything great. They just wanted to make a game that everybody could engage in and have fun with, because that's the point of video games, right, folks? You want to have fun, just like Cyndi Lauper sang in 1984. But Western journos who break down and cry and say, oh my God, there's no diversity in a game set in 1592 China, ancient China, about a monkey god king who goes around kicking all kinds of ass with different strange beings. But I guess, you know, Western journalism, folks, it's a dying breed, and long may it continue to rot and decay, because we don't care what these journalists have to offer. And there are very few journalists I think are worth their salt. But on this one and on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's video, you better give it a like. You better smash that subscribe button. And if I were you, and if you were me, you might want to return for the next video.
Tune in next time, Space Freaks, and hear your doobry go ping in the next gripping installment of
Kung Fu Hot Dog.